Just to address your concern that the class up
Do you
and
guys have
down in
anything to say?
society
Can you come up with
interferes.
anything to say?
The Botswana's time, the focus was caste system. Caste system is unique where one person born, he will stay in that station for the rest of the life. It's not with us. And it is not anywhere else in the world. So if some of us feel in this group, somebody is acting uppity, social, showmanship, it's all psychological. It has nothing to do with the original Basava's equality of caste. So, we are done with the caste. There's no caste feeling among us. Maybe some people may show off and to make other people feel bad. But in all communities in the world, there is discrimination. But what we particularly focus is casteism, caste in India, which Bhaswan dealt with. And I believe we don't have caste feelings, but like all human beings, we may feel, show off and put down, uppity. That happens in all communities throughout the world. So I wanted you to make the difference.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. I think what I was referring to specifically, I didn't necessarily mean to say that we have casteism in our community. I said more of like a classism context. So if we were to, not necessarily in North America as much, because a lot of us who have immigrated here come from stronger family backgrounds because we have that financial capability to do so. But every time I visit India, I also see other Veerashaivas who are of lower caste not being treated, lower class, my apologies, not being treated the same way as someone who comes from a stronger financial or socioeconomic background. It's a very popular thing that I'm seeing in India. For example, a lot of our houses, we have maids who do our work for us. A lot of them are Veerashaivas as well, but they're also from, they're treated in certain ways. So that's just something that I wanted to address.
Certainly. See, we have to be very careful not to take the burden of what is happening in Karnataka. In Karnataka, there is casteism and political, a lot of things are happening in Veerashaiva community. So we don't want to go there. Here, given to us is Vachanas. And we haven't got a modern, good community where I believe there's no casteism. Of course, there will be a little bit show off and other things. Thank you.
So I just had something to say on the topic too. I know, Bilva, you mentioned how we have a sort of class, or in the sense that we have maids who kind of do the lower work of the household, and there's kind of this whole classism within the community there. And I understand that it's like Uncle said, that kind of thing happens in societies across the world. But I think what the main distinction would be between treating it like a Veerashaiva and just treating it like normal would be, of course, there are people that have to do the work, the cleaning work, the work that no one else wants to do. But that doesn't mean that their work is any less helpful than the work that anyone else wants to do. If we treat them, we just say kaya kave kaila, so we say work is worship, then doing whatever work you are best at doing, or whatever work if you feel that work needs to be done and no one else wants to do it, then props to you. That is something, you are being a very good Veerashaiva by doing so. And if we treat people in such a way that when they do those work, yes, it may be the work that no one wants to do, but if we treat them in such a way that they're essentially doing equal work to us, we should treat everyone, we say that we should treat everyone equally, then we should treat them like they're all doing equal work to us. And I feel that would be how to be a Veerashaiva and but while still having the necessary reality that someone has to do these jobs. Yeah.
And if I may say something, yeah, Tershil, do you want to give the mics?
Yeah.
This one too. But yesterday this question came up too. I asked a question of how close are modern, the modern functions of race and the races that people are born into compared to the caste that the Sharana, or the caste system that the Sharanas fought against. And I think a very sort of quick and easy answer was explained to me that, caste was a different problem in India and race is a different problem today. And I acknowledge that. I see that in the most literal sense, they're obviously different things, but there's obviously a part of me that still thinks that race is functioning today in many ways that caste did, and that you're born into a very stratified and strict system where you have very little mobility to move outwards. And I just think that that's something I'd want to keep in mind when we're having this discussion, that sure, they're literally different, but they're functionally a lot closer than we may want to say.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. Along the same lines of equality, the function of Virashaivism when it was founded is very clear. Hello? Oh, we good? Okay. The function of Virashaivism when it was founded is very clear. It was to bring up those people who are in the lower castes when the caste system was something that was a huge issue. But that's clearly not as much of an issue that we're facing now here today. But as Varun just brought up, race is one of those things that is very stuck. We all see it. It's in every facet of life. And even behind closed doors, there are different opinions that people have of different races, and it comes up often, especially when it comes to, I mean, we live in a place that we interact with people of all races all the time, and so issues come up. And Virashaivism should be, at least my interpretation of it, is we are still all equal. I know yesterday in the discussion it was brought up that it is sometimes seen as an issue in our community that if you marry someone of a different race, if like I married a white boy or a black boy or anyone, it could come up as an issue, and I'm sure that would be a conversation that had to be had. But that doesn't seem to line up with Virashaivism to me.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to follow up with Bilva's question.
I have 2 points to make, with the previous discussion. See, we are trying to assimilate, even if we don't want, you youngsters are trying to assimilate into American culture. That is inevitable. We have to accept that one. But there's one aspect in American culture which I like very much, which is very nearer to Basava principle. I grew up in India, so I know each work is kind of, looked very differently in Indian culture. Not much respect is given for a server in a hotel. So the type of work defines the person's status in India. It may be changing now. I'm telling 30 years. I left India 30 years back, right? But today in US, we are very near to the Basava principle because we duly respect everybody. If somebody works in Walmart, still we give them respect. If somebody is serving, a lot of college students, they're serving the hotels, we give still respect. There is respect for work in American culture. That is one value which is more nearer to Basava principle, which we can adopt. That is something, okay? The second one, we talked a lot about caste and race. Again, my experience in India is very different. The caste was so strong in India. If somebody, your question is good, if somebody is getting to go marry within Virashaiva, say from one sub-community to another sub-community, there will be terrible consequences they have to face. If they're going from Lingayat to Brahmin or Brahmin to Gauda, Gauda to Muslim, extreme reaction from both the families, almost throwing them out of the house, very strong reaction. Whereas compare that with the races. Maybe your parents may not be happy if you go and marry a Muslim. I agree. But they're not going to cut off all the relation. That kind of extreme situation, we don't see it here. So we are very, very different, even though racism is happening in a very closed subdo, not openly, not coming out ugly in the families. Okay? This is the difference we have to notice. So racism is not casteism. There's a big difference between those two.
Of course it is. I mean, we also live in a community, sorry. Of course it is. We live in a community where, I mean, things are not going to be, we have to adopt the ideals of Virashaivism for the experience we're living today. So we're not really living in a society where, even here, it's not quite acceptable for our parents to kick us out, because like if they're talking with their friends and they're like, oh, why did you do that? They're like, oh, because she married a Muslim boy. Like, that wouldn't be acceptable for them. So we have to adopt the Virashaivism, the principles of Virashaivism for the experience we're living today. But it's still, I do think, not in line with our ideals that we preach.
But we are more nearer to the Basava principle, the greater extent of tolerance here. They may tell you, please don't do it, but if you do it,
Of course, but the please don't do it shouldn't. By the way, my parents are really cool. Like, I'm not. I just want to throw that out there. But like, I'm just bringing up the issue that it would be a discussion to be had, and I don't believe it should even be brought up as you shouldn't do it, or I would like you not to do it. You know.
Okay, so I think we all like to hear ourselves talk a lot. I'm sitting next to Bilva here, but we didn't, no, what I mean by, so what I'm trying to say is Bilva asked a question and we actually never really answered it. So Bilva asked, and everyone brings up good questions about caste and race. I don't think we have too much problems with that. Bilva is concerned with classism. So I think we should, really, moving forward, we should talk about, classism per se. So classism is where we stand as in, someone a janitor or someone is a doctor. So per se, I think we should address the question as in a classist sense. And I think, speaking from a personal anecdote, we had a 10-day discourse. This kind of strives away a little bit from Virashaivism, but I'm talking about Hinduism in general. So we had a 10-day discourse on the Gita at my local temple in Tampa. And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, how come, there's all our doctor friends aren't here? Like what's going on? Because growing up, like I'd always go to their house and we have pujas in their house. And across the street there was a physician conference. And there's this big juxtaposition and big, almost like a segregated divide. They were having a grand party over there, lots of materialism, who's wearing the newest sari, and we're talking about a discussion about God. And my mom and I weren't dressed for that party, but they invited us over, and all our friends at the temple weren't invited to that party because they weren't doctors. We had got grandfathered in because my dad was a physician. Unfortunately, my dad's no longer with us. And we weren't dressed. My mom got scared to go because she wasn't in her best attire. But that's classism, why do we have a bunch of Hindus here on one side who are faithful to God, and because they're not of one class, as in higher upper class, that we can't interact with our own people. So I think was that sort of what you're referring to when you say classism? So I don't think we have issues with race. I don't think we have issues with intermarriage. We do well with other races and interracially with marriages. I think the classist thing is something we still haven't defeated within our own Indian culture. How we treat other Indians, I think, can be sometimes an issue.
We have to save our energy by not taking the burden of what is happening in Karnataka. There's no use discussing stories about how caste system is being played out in India. Now, 4 years ago, we published this model plan so that we can construct a community, a Virashaiva community, to apply the core principles of Basava philosophy to the daily life in America. So that's what we are trying to do. So now everything is not perfect. So we are to, only way to accomplish what we want to do is to walk the journey instead of waiting for a perfect solution for some perfect scholar or holy man coming and telling us all good answers, go home. And one more thing, it is not fair. Now, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿರೋ ಹುಡುಗರಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಮನೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ವಚನ ಓದಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಫೇರ್. ಇದು ನೀವು ಕನ್ನಡ ಕಲಿತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ನಮಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ತಿಳ್ತಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಫೇರ್, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ರಿಯಲಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್. ಸೊ ಈಗ ಅವ್ರು ಬಂದಿರೋದು ಲೆಟ್ ಅಸ್ put together whatever wisdom we have and go with that. Thank you.
Just a minute. In Virashaivism or Lingayitism or Basavaism, whatever you call, there is no space for caste, class. We should treat each and everyone same. The answer is very simple. There is no space for class and caste. All are equal. There is no white and black. Atma has no white and black.
So I think the point is more, as kids growing up in America, we have several different paths that we can take, college, army, whatever you decide to choose. There always seems to be, the three that you gotta pick from, or your parents are like, what are you doing with your life? Doctor, lawyer, engineer. Right? Am I wrong? It's, you say not anymore, but it's still there. And it's part of it is from, that's how you guys all came here. You worked hard. You did the things that allowed you to create such a great life that we have here. But for us, there's conflict. We want to be able to pursue the things that we want to. Let's say, like, my kid wants to be an artist. As a Virashaiva, I should be able to support them and not be like, you're not being a doctor, you're not going to have a stable life as an artist. Like, it's what they want to do. That's how they're going to contribute to the community the best they can. It's how they do their kayaka, how they do their dasawa. That's what makes them a Virashaiva. Not, like, you can't treat them differently just because they don't want to, like, do a certain profession or do a certain thing that's not who they are. And I think that's what Bill was getting at more than, like, anything else.
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
She was next.
No, I was trying to, address Bilwa's question a little bit. Oh, I'm Vasanta. So, to just speak to what you were saying, you see a lot of differences when you go to India. Life has, unfortunately, challenges. They are different from what they were during Basona's time, possibly here. But for us to know what the principles are and to apply them the best we can. So when we'd gone to India one time, like you were saying, we have servants and they're lingayats. So there was an elderly gentleman who'd been working in the house a long time, in one place. So when my husband, addressed the gentleman, "Oh, hegidira," anta, and talked to the gentleman and everything, And when I came back inside, I heard this comment. Did you hear? Did you hear what Mahesh called him? So, to make that, difference in small ways, if we all made a difference in small ways, then we can make a difference in somebody's life. So that's what I have to say. It can come in the form, like you're saying, of class. Caste is there in India in many parts. It can come in the form of disabilities. It can come in the form of race. We are going to be challenged, in many ways on a daily basis, but to know who we are and use that.
Sharan Shanati to everyone. I think the question started with Akka Mahadevi was, Sharan Akka Mahadevi was so passionate to get the grace of God. Are we as passionate as her? And kind of deviated into other things. I think I want people to come back to that question, because being passionate about getting the grace of God is as important as other things. Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to point out something to the point she had made. The idea that, like, you should be okay if your kid's a painter. I realized that, like, one of the vachanas had said, I think it was Aidaki Lakama, her husband came home with too much rice, and she said, "Why do you bring home so much? We only need, like, a little amount." And then you don't need more just because you can have more. You should be just fine with what you have. So it's the idea that I'm sure Guru Swamiji can tell the full vachana. Can you?
Yes.
Okay.
Isakke ase ninegeke Maraya Priya Gajeshwarana Valla antadu. So you need little bit rice and you brought a lot. So God does not accept that rice, and that is not be a prasada. That will be only pradhartha.
Okay. And so, like, being a doctor is the job that gives you all this extra money, but being a painter is the job that gives you only what you need.
That's why the Basava says dasoha, the charity. You earn money, and whatever you earn, 50% whatever some amount, you do the charity. The way you can maintain the equality in the society. If you are rich and someone is poor, you are filled with the stomach and someone is hunger, so what he will do? He will come and rob you. So if you do charity, no one will rob you. That's why the Dasoha came.
Just and to answer the Apurva's question, it is not literally meaning of Akki. It is the, you need to get what you need it. Some people live on $50,000 per annum, some 100, 200, there is no ending. What literal meaning is, you need to be content. That's the meaning actually. It is not the more rice, less rice, it's not. It is you need to have what minimum you need it, Otherwise, there is never ending. You become greedy. Then if you become greedy, then you have to do more, and then there is, that is the meaning actually.
ಅದು ವಚನ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆಸೆ ಎಂಬುದು ಅರಸಂಗಲ್ಲದೆ ಶಿವಭಕ್ತರಿಗೆ ಉಂಟೆ ಅಯ್ಯ, ರೋಷ ಎಂಬುದು ಯಮದೂತರಿಗಲ್ಲದೆ ಶಿವಭಕ್ತರಿಗೆ ಉಂಟೆ ಅಯ್ಯ, ಈ ಸಕ್ಕಿ ಆಸೆ ನಿಮಗೇಕೆ ಅಂತ ಅದು ವಚನ.
So that's a part of it. Part of it is about like what you get from it, but the other part of it is, as kids, are we allowed, as kids, we want to feel that we're accepted for who we are. And especially Virashaivas as our VSNA community, like, I'm an engineering major, and I know I feel accepted by you guys, but let's say I wasn't, like, would you still accept me for who I am, doing the dasoha that I'm doing the kayaka that I'm doing? That's what we as kids are faced with here. We're not necessarily talking about what's happening in India, but as Virashaivas growing up in America, that is one of the biggest issues that we're facing.
And so kind of continue off that, I think one thing I had with my spiritual awakening when I decided not to follow through going through with medical school is that I identified too much with the ego, and that's something where at some point you start buying into the illusion, right, Maya? And I think what's happening is as people start, there's nothing wrong in being wealthy because you can definitely give a lot of it back to charity and you can be very instrumental, but I think what we see happening is as people garner affluence, they don't know where to stop and they throw spirituality straight out the door. And I think this is what's causing this classist divide. I don't think it's actually people like necessarily being mean to each other. They just identify so much with the ego, because think about it, you've worked that hard for your wealth. There's no way you think God did that for you. You think you did that, as a, let's say, a wealthy businessman or a physician. So I think that's where the classism rides. It's just they've lost God, and I can't generalize everyone, right? But for, let's say, the 80%, they've lost God, and this is what's happening, where you have this sort of class between the two classes.
Going on to the discussion, see, I heard a lot of discussion about casteism, racism, and all that. The point Vachananda Swamiji made and many others made, it's about me. See, when you say there is casteism, who are you talking about? Not you, rest of them. So, like Guru Swami also mentioned, you say, having come to VSNA convention, listening to the scholars and learned people, that what you should be. Will you be a racist? The caste matters to you. So when you finish the convention and go back, now you being the focal point to spread the message that you as a Virashaiva do not believe in casteism, racism, classism. See, we are always pointing fingers at others. Why there is classism? So whom are you asking the question? To your father, your mother, your community, your neighbor? No. He says, I, E, U, and he said, us, me. See, it's about me. After listening to this, if you go back home saying that I will not believe classism, to me, it doesn't make a difference. Like he said, I will not take more than what I need. I will share if I have anything else to the needy person. No, that is your Virashaiva first lesson. Now, you take it back. Now, when you start being an example, your friends will follow you, your neighbors will follow you. Supposing your friend is showing casteism, now, do you want to go and fix him? Do you want to tell the society to don't do classism? No. We, 1,000 VSNAs, we will say that this community does not believe in classism. And we become the living examples of Basavana's message. Basavana didn't want to give an example. He says, Yanaginta Kiririlla. He said, I am the smallest person. So no, we take the lessons in these conventions with Guruji's coming here, to what I should be tomorrow morning, next week, next month, next year. So we are giving the platform to you, so that you take this, you will be an example to North America, where VSNA is residing, that this body demonstrates. I saw, she was mentioning, I will do charity. Good. Start. Charity begins at home. So you want racism, you don't believe in it. You don't want casteism, you don't say casteism. Now, supposing the next door neighbor is doing a casteism, okay, you give it a chance, go and tell him a message, be an example to him or her or whatever. So I want these discussions to be that way. Only second point is, Nale Bapputa Inde Barali is the Vachana we are talking about. So here, the message is, in America, we have instant gratification. I want something, I want it tomorrow. I'm not going to wait for it. So no, please, work for it. They all told us how long it takes. You have heard many of the experts telling you how you go from this point to this point to this point. There are steps in it. What VSNA says is, achieve that in stages and be patient about it. Don't say, I get up from here, tomorrow everything is going to be fine. You are making a first step. And they come and teach us. I think we should learn from that. So that's my point. When I heard the discussion about casteism for such a long time, I was wondering that each one was pointing at others. No. You get up and say, I will not believe in casteism. I will not believe in racism. I will be a beacon of equality by living example. That's what Gandhiji did. All the great people did that. He led the life of a poor man. He didn't say, you all live like poor. I will do this way. So the nation followed. The world followed. No, you will be the next person. You will be the next person if you adapt and follow this and don't tell others, oh, don't do racism. You are wrong. You are a Veershaiva, but why are you doing racism? No. I am a Veershaiva. I will not be racist. I will not be casteist. I will not be class conscious. Go ahead. Next time you see somebody working in a thing, tell him, I respect you, sir. You know, in America, like he was there, Harish was mentioning, America, we really treat people equally. I haven't heard anybody treat a server badly, very good example, because we are not recognizing the class in America. India, it exists, but doesn't matter. You follow that system. So that was my point, because I saw the discussion, I got worried that we are telling the whole world to be not classist, not racist, blah, blah. No. You, me, all of us. That was my point. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you. And in response to what you have to say, I can't help but feel that it's somewhat circular. The idea that we can see things that go against our principles in our community and then be complacent with that, even if we by ourselves lead with a good example. I still think that when there are parts of the community, people who are acting in ways that directly oppose what we stand for and what we were founded on, that there's there's a need to be proactive. I think especially among members who can see that people are acting out of line. And I guess it's food for thought, but it does seem a bit too circular to hope that you know, you leading by example is somehow going to passively bring about change and cause others to stop acting out of line. But I guess that's for open discussion.
So I just wanted to say something on that as well. The idea of we shall lead our principles by example, I think is a very good one, because too often what I found is if you just tell somebody they're wrong, they are far less likely to think that you're right and try to like follow in your example. I think I guess it's like one of the principles of Virashaivism is that you kind of, you do, you find what you believe in and you act upon it. So to lead by example, I guess if you see someone that's going on, going and being a racist to somebody, telling him he's a racist is probably just going to make him angrier and end up in a worse situation for the other guy, I think. So, I mean, you can like tell him passively, but to get in his face and all would I think be counterproductive. I think like the best way to go about that situation is to kind of bring the abused into your fold, bring him into kind of your principles, give him, because a lot of times I think it's like, if that man had stood up to the racist himself, then, well, the racist would have, first of all, something to think about, the fact that he can't go around bullying people like he did before. But I think the reason the man is afraid to do that is because he's afraid of what else is in society. Like if he knows that if he does that, then the rest of society isn't going to be on his side. But if you show the man that you are on his side, you give him the confidence to kind of rise up from the bottom, give him the strength to fix his own situation rather than kind of antagonize his antagonizer, which may just be counterproductive for him itself. Yeah.